Hello, how are you today? It's Thursday. We're this close to being at the end of the week. Woohoo! Do you have to be a public speaker if you're an author? No, but it really helps. It helps get your name out into the world. Gives you opportunities to refine your message by delivering it live. It gives you opportunities to sell your book and to connect one-on-one with your audience so that you are growing it, making those connections deeper and more effective. Today, well-known author and the writer's champion, Twila Belk, joins me as we present Marketers on a Mission, episode 114, Your First 5 Steps to Becoming a Public Speaker. I'm Patricia Durgan, the Christian Message Coach, and this is Marketers on a Mission. We present tutorials, marketing tutorials, and interviews to help Christian writers and speakers share their message online. Hey, Twila, how are you today?
Hi, Patricia. It's great to be here. This is a great topic to have.
You are looking fine today, sweet girl.
Oh, it's all that practice. Oh, if you only knew.
You've spoken for so many years. How did you get started, Twila?
Well, speaking was a natural thing for me, and so I emceed a lot of events, and when we were youth leaders, it was just something that I did naturally. But about 20 years ago, right after God got my attention and made it clear that he wanted me to start writing, he got my attention and made it clear through a series of events that he wanted me to start speaking publicly. So it just kind of happened naturally, and I just kind of, okay, Lord, I was shaking in my boots, but I followed his direction, and my motto is trust and obey, then get out of the way, and that's what I did.
I love that phrase. So we're going to talk today. You and I are going to talk together to the viewers in 5 different ways that they can, or the 5 different. Excuse me. Let me back up. What can be their first 5 steps to becoming a public speaker. And if we have time, we're going to work in a bonus, okay?
Oh, good. We love bonuses. Extra value for our listeners. That's right.
Yes. So I'm going to start, then I'm going to hand it to Twila, and we're going to go back and forth until we've covered what we want to. And we so appreciate you being here. I hope that you have that you're excited about the possibility and not fearful of the possibility of becoming a public speaker. If Christ has called you to it, you can do it.
That's right.
Even if you don't feel like you can, and even if the enemy is telling you you can't, because anything that he says is a direct lie. So if he says it's black, it's white. If he says you can't do it, that means you can do it. Okay. I'm going to be careful. I'm going to get completely off track here. So the very first thing that you can
Preach
do,
it, sister.
I want to share some information with you about how to develop your first presentation. Most people begin speaking by their speaking career by sharing their story. This particular event happened. This tragedy occurred. I overcame this challenge, those types of things. There's some kind of a drama, some kind of a challenge, or something had to be overcome. And that's what they're there to share. Now, this is not a recitation. If you've never spoken publicly or you're a little rusty, these things are not a recitation of the facts. It's a story. It's your story. It's sharing what happened without inviting pity. We have all sat through those presentations where the speaker droned on and on and on about every detail of that was on their horrific story. We need to mention it, give it its due, move right on into how Christ delivered us from what we just described, that terrible tragedy or that challenge that we overcame. Here's a 4-step handy checklist. Now, I've also recorded another tutorial that shares this more fully, fleshes this out, and I'm going to add the link to that after we finish with this episode. But here's what you can consider as how would I start that, and what's the process, and is there a sequence? I suggest this, see if this works for you. Number 1, as you're describing what you're talking to, describing how you want to present the order of your points. You're telling your audience, I was once where you are now. Number 2, Christ, you wouldn't say it this way. You wouldn't say point number 1 and point number 2. You would create a story out of it, but this is your arc. Could be your arc. I was once where you are now. You're saying to them, Christ delivered me. He helped me solve my problem, overcome my challenge, reach my goal. Step number 3, now I lead others to freedom in his name. So we've got the problem, then we've got the solution. Now this is who we are today. And point number 4 is here's how you, being the audience, can change your life. We want to leave them with a call to action. We want to encourage them that whether the tragedy that we presented, that we experienced, may not be the same tragedy that they've experienced. Maybe they haven't even experienced a tragedy. But the wisdom and the insights and the points that you make in your presentation are very applicable. And they are across, biblical principles stand the test of time, and they go across cultures and age groups and needs. I love that. All right, Twila, you've got one.
I do. She's talking about developing your presentation, but one thing as a speaker to get started, you want to think about the things that you're passionate about. If you're writing a book, what are some of the main things that you bring out in that book? You want to develop a handful of topics, and then write some blurbs for those topics. So think about what is your overriding thing. When I speak, my main theme is trust in a big God. And so that's my main theme that ties through all of my topics. But then I have different presentations I can do that get the message. One of my most popular one is laughing at the days to come. But the main message is trusting in a big God. So you want to develop some topics that you can do and blurbs for those, and then you'll use those topics and blurbs in in places like your website and on your one sheet or different promotional materials. But that way, people who are looking for a speaker will know what they can expect of you and the types of things you do. But you also want to let your event planners know that you are willing to customize a topic for their needs. So you're willing to angle that particular topic for whatever their event is.
How often do people come to you, Twila, and ask you to tailor? Because you're already established, you've got a reputation, people know what you do now. But are they still coming and saying, we want you, but we're sort of thinking about this topic?
Well, a lot of times people will have themes for their events, and I might have different titles for my topics that might not work for that, but they'll tell me what their event is and kind of where they want to go with it. And I think, oh, well, I can just adapt some of my topics or put together a few of them or whatever. And one thing as a speaker is you want to always think about your audience, and you want to honor your event planners and things like that by kind of going with what they would like to do. So you take all those things into consideration. It's really not as hard as what you would think it is, because it's inside of you. The passion is inside you. It's going to come out in a lot of different ways. So it's not that hard to customize.
So if somebody asks us to tailor something, we start that conversation, we don't have to feel like we're starting from zero.
No, we don't. We have a lot of material. We have a lot of experiences. And the thing I would say above everything else, always pray about it. I do that with every event. I pray, because I want exactly the message that God wants me to bring to that particular audience. Sometimes I do a lot of wrestling within that. And it's like, this is something I know, I've been doing it for years, but God is working on me to just have the specific message for that particular group. And so I say prayer is the number one thing you want to do before anything. Amen. When you're considering your topic.
So we've covered 2 of what could be your first 5 ways to begin your speaking career. Now you could do 500 different things, okay? We're covering 5 of them today, and in no particular order, and we plan on having a bonus for you. My second way is to realize how qualified you already are. What are your credentials? Now, if we have multiple college degrees and university and a master's, and we have a doctorate, and we have already written 75 books on this, and we're an international star, probably we're not starting our speaking career. We probably had a few opportunities before we reached that level. But I meet so many people, and I know that you do too, Twila, and they feel that they have nothing. That it's not that they don't think they have anything to offer. They don't think they're qualified to offer it. This is the enemy speaking to you. Christ has given you a story. He's given you a message. If he has gifted you to share that, then you are qualified. Is your topic, so here's some examples. Is your topic about parenting? All right, so what might your qualifications be if your topic is about parenting? For example, just tossing one idea out. Have you reared 8 children? Then you're qualified to teach about parenting. Is your topic rocket science? Then you are qualified. Were you an astronaut? Then you are qualified to talk about rocket science. Now, last Friday, I interviewed, my guest was Toni Campbell. She's an expert on church outreach. She told me even during the interview, I'm not somebody who had the proper credentials. She wasn't apologetic about that. She'd already worked through that, because most of us have to do that. We have to believe in our heart and our spirit that we are qualified for the topic Christ has called us to share, right? She realized that her 8 years on the front lines serving as her local church's outreach director qualified her as an expert to be outreach director. And that's the topic of her book. So it's very natural. You don't have to feel like you have to go to school or go get some other kind of training. If you've been a janitor for 18 years in a school, you know about the wisdom of children, don't you? You've heard so many different heartbreaking stories, just as people were walking back and forth through the hall or at the lunchroom. You know things, but you have to point that out to your reader and when it's time to present your delivery for a presentation. You're talking to an event planner, even when you're writing a book proposal. People don't naturally know how we're gifted. We have to explain that to them. I toss it to you, Twila. Did you have something to add?
Okay, I will catch that. Just like me, I do not have a college education. I have a lot, but I have a lot of people who have PhDs come to me for advice. I have a lot of experiences that qualify me for what I talk about. I had gone through a lot of tough stuff, and I have seen a big God at work. And those are the stories I share. And when I share my stories, and I'm transparent about the things that I went through, that makes me credible with my audience, and they can say, yeah, I've been there. I've done it. Even those crazy things. I tell lots of stories on myself about the time I forgot to take my kids to school on the first day, and it's like, what kind of a mother would do that? But see, that connects me with the audience because they've forgotten things too. And then I tie that into forgetting God. So you, as you tell your stories, that's what helps your audience understand where you're coming from. I'm a caregiver right now, so I am qualified to talk about caregiving. I don't know all the ins and outs, but I can talk about what I've learned from my experience and things like that, and so it's just nobody can take your story away from you. So and your experience with the Lord, whatever it is, that's something that you have to share, and others can learn from it. Now, if it's all about me, they're not going to like that. But if it's something that you want to connect with the audience and give them helps that you've learned and things like that, and they'll know the difference. And what I was supposed to talk about, and when you're first starting out with the different topics, is that where developing your credibility and your authority and all that business? But getting started, where do you start? There's one organization that talks about putting in time, doing the pits, putting in time. You're not going to make big bucks right from the start unless you've had all kinds of credentials, or if you've been the president of the United States or something like that. But what you do is you just let people know that you're available to speak and share your story. Get the word out. And then don't expect, tell them you're willing to do that for a love offering, or, be willing to accept a gift bag or something like that. So when you first start out, you want to get the experience speaking. So let people know you're available. You could men's groups, women's groups at church, different things like that. The library, you could do workshops, different things like that. And then just start out getting as many speaking engagements like that as you can. Share a devotion for a Sunday school group or things like that. So you want to start out putting in time, and then it'll grow from there.
Absolutely. And what we want to do when we do those presentations, we want to leave there, or very soon after that event, we want to get a testimonial from the person in charge. And
Exactly.
if we are fortunate enough to have people who attended our presentation, if they say kind words to us, we want to figure out a way that's comfortable to us that we can respond. May I please have your contact information, and use that phrase, that what you just said to me, as a testimonial? That would be so helpful to me. You don't want a lot of time, and you may feel differently about this, Twila, but I've noticed that if there's a lot of time, and it could just be days or weeks, depending upon how busy the other person is, an event planner has forgotten the passion, has tamped down a little bit. They're back in their swing of things, in their normal routine, and where they were so overflowing with praise. Not that they would say something different or negative, but it's not quite as full of beautiful description as it might have been if you had asked them that the very next day. What do you think?
It's not fresh on their mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. While we're here at a sort of a stopping point, let me check Facebook and see if we have any comments or questions. I think we have some visitors. Here we go here. Excuse me. Sometimes this cooperates and sometimes it doesn't, so we try. We just try. Robin is here. Robin Grunder.
Hi, Robin.
She says at one time she got a potted plant as payment.
Yeah.
And we have to just accept that, and not, and Robin would. I know Robin's very gracious, so I'm not suggesting that she wouldn't have accepted that. But we want to know going in that it's likely we're not going to get a lot of money. Then if we get anything at all, we're ahead of the game, right?
That's right. And, what we're getting is experience. We're getting exposure. The Bible talks about a workman getting its, due pay. But you could ask for a love offering or something, even a potted plant. I have received, I don't know, just little things. I've received nothing, and I've gone into places where I thought I was going to get something and didn't. But if you have books to sell, that's one thing. When, if you're an author, or maybe even have some products. That's one way. Even if you aren't getting paid for the event, you can have a product table. I always ask, and I always love the opportunity to have a book table, and so just having your books or products there that tie into your topic, that's another way that you can maybe make a little money while you're there. But you're getting exposure and word of mouth. If they like what they're hearing, they're going to, maybe you have a variety of people in that group from different churches and things like that, and they say, wow, I like what she said. I'm going to see if she can talk for my event. And so word of mouth spreads, and it's just wonderful how that does. And that's how I've got a lot of different speaking engagements, because of that word of mouth. They've heard me, they liked what I did, and then that turned into other events that were, paying events.
So we may not get paid that Friday, but we may get paid in a month or a year. And it was all because of that investment of our time.
Yes.
We were gracious about, and we accepted what was given, little or much.
Yes. And that's something that's, at the beginning, starting out, once you're down the road, it's going to change. You're not going to do that. You might decide that you want to tithe an event, and not charge. But you put a lot of time and effort into your talks, and it takes you away from your family and different things like that. So yes, you want to be able to eventually be able to get some money from that. But it just depends on the where you're coming from and the
lots of variables. I'm familiar with tithing, your speaking engagement fee, but will you explain that for people? Because a lot of people who are going to be watching this have never, that concept is new.
Well, there are some speakers who, let's just use figures like, okay, tithing 10% or whatever. So if they speak 10 times a year for pay, they might offer to do something for a lesser amount or for free for a certain group who can't really afford to pay them. They give, they're not doing it for pay. They're doing it because they want to, they're doing kingdom work, and they want to, forward their ministry and to help that organization out. So, it's hard to say. There's a lot of different philosophies out there about speaking, and the money part is the hardest thing to do. But just know that when you're just getting started out, don't expect to get paid as much money as someone who's been doing it for years. You need to get the experience speaking in front of people. And you're going to learn a lot of things as you're doing that. A good idea, as you're getting that experience or doing the talks, bring a digital recorder with you and record your events, and you'll be able to use that for a lot of things down the road. You can, listen to that and say, okay, I need help with this or what that. But you can also use those recordings and take clips from those to send to groups, a lot of groups want to hear you before they bring you in, so you can use some of those clips to send to that group or the entire recording. So you can use those recordings in a lot of ways. So that's just one thing, as you're starting out, to keep in mind, because that can help you in the long run.
And you're talking about audio clips.
I'm talking about audio, yes, but yeah, go ahead.
I also provide video interviews. Yes. That are similar to this, but they're not on a Facebook Live situation, and they are a paid product that I offer. So if you are ready to get to that point, whether you're hitting the ground running and you've never done it before, but you want a video on your website or on your social media, it can be something, whether you use me or somebody else, consider a video as well as an audio. So whichever format the potential invitee is you comfortable with, then you can accommodate them no matter what they're asking for. It's very important to have some sample of your personality.
Yes.
They will not hire you blindly.
Some do.
Yeah, but those who do are usually inexperienced, aren't they? And they don't really know how to guide us through the process themselves, do they?
Well, if they've been doing events for a while, they want someone, they want to know what they're getting,
yes, yes.
So
be careful as you're communicating with the people who are inviting you. Be careful that you understand completely what time are you supposed to be there, because they're always going to want, just practical nuts and bolts. And Twila's got some more she's fixing to share in a moment. But be sure that you're there when they expect you to be there. Some want you there an hour earlier than the program starts. Some are fine if you walk in the door 15 minutes before it starts. Work these details out so that you're not nervous the day of, and they're not nervous. Working with event planners, and whether they're formal event planners or they're Sue, who works down at the local church, and she sort of puts things together every quarter and make sure that somebody comes to speak. No matter what their title is, we gain a reputation on how easy it is to work with us. That's part of our reputation as a speaker. So be considerate of them. Expect that they will be of you, but be prepared as if they won't be, so that you're covered either way. And your work is done, your message is presented, your handouts are there and they're already prepared, or whatever the arrangements are that you need to make. Don't assume that someone's going to take the burden of that. Just don't. You'll learn that the hard way if you haven't already. My next suggestion is that you get 3 to 5 endorsements. Now, testimonials and our endorsements are two different things. A testimonial is from the event planner or an attendee, one or more attendees, even if they mention to you the next day at church. Let's say you spoke at your church on a Saturday, and then it was your church that was local. So those same people saw you Sunday morning. People who will come up to you and say various good things. I can't believe that was spot on to the issue that I'm dealing with right now. Or the Lord spoke to me so clearly when you said X, Y, Z. Ask them. Those are the people that you're going to ask them, do you mind to write that down for me, please? That would be so helpful to me. So that's a testimonial. An endorsement is someone who does not fit that description. They may not have heard you speak, but they know you. They know your value. They know your integrity, your character. They know that you know what you're talking about, that you have walked this path, that you are who you represent yourself to be. Get their photo. Get their words down. Some people need a little bit of a prompting. I would suggest that you write out what you want them to say. That's not really couth, but prompt them if they need to. Give them some examples of other people, what they have done. Even if you need to make up those examples, that this would be a perfect testimonial, a perfect endorsement would look like X. And let them guide them gently into what it is that you would want to say or highlight. When I ask people for endorsements, One person, I'll ask them for a character reference. Another person, I'll ask them for to talk about my integrity. So I'm prompting them, and yet I'm not. No specific words, but I'm forwarding my ideas so that when they are all cumulatively gathered together, people get the reader, the event planner, fill in the blank with the person who's looking at. Now they have a fuller picture. There aren't 6 testimonials or endorsements about one aspect, but it's a much broader picture, don't you think?
Yeah, I think it's just really good to have endorsements and testimonials, and then what you do with it, you use them, you put them on your website, you put them in your promotional materials, on your one sheets, your rack cards, things like that, because that shows people that, well, first of all, it shows that you've had experience out there, and that you have people who say, yeah, you want her to come in or him to come in and speak because he knows stuff. He changes lives when he speaks or whatever. So those endorsements and testimonials are a really good thing to have, and they speak volumes, because it's one thing to tell people about yourself, but when somebody else is doing the talking and saying, hey, this is what I learned from so and so, those speak loudly. And then
can I jump in here and mention one other thing that I meant to say about an endorsement and or a testimonial? Do your very, very best to get a photograph. It's not always possible, but push yourself, not the other person. Push yourself to take that next step and ask, may I have a picture with you? Or may I have your picture? Or may I pull your picture off of your Facebook profile? Any number of different ways nowadays that we can get someone's picture. It makes a testimonial or an endorsement so much more effective. And get their full name. If they have a title, get their title. If they have a ministry or a business that would be normally recognized by the people in your field, write all that down. Mm-hmm. Capture all that. Share all of that.
You're helping that person too with, putting their credentials and who they are, so it's kind of a win-win situation. And what you've just said is, that's appropriate for speakers. You can put those up on Facebook and your social media, but I did that with my book too. When my book came out, I had endorsements from different people, and so I would get a picture of them, and then I put their endorsement right next to the picture, and talk about who they were. So those things really they work well.
They matter, don't they? To the reader, they matter.
And it puts a face to people and makes them real, and it's like, yeah, that's good stuff.
Did you have anything else you wanted to say? I don't want to cut you off.
I just want to, a lot of people, when they're starting out speaking, they have no idea how to let people know about that. And there are just a few easy ways that we can, things that don't take any time at all, is you can if you use a signature line in your email, put the word speaker, or, say that you're now available for speaking engagement, something like that. Put the word speaker on your business card, hand those out. Let people know at your church that you're now speaking. Let people know on social media that you're speaking. You can develop, it's really easy to get a rack card made. I'm talking about a rack card. We used to say one sheet, which is one sheet that has your, all your information, and maybe we'll have your blurbs on it and your topics and your endorsements or whatever. Those are good, but a lot of speakers are going to, a rack card, which is, it fits in a business size envelope. It's about that size, this size here, and those are a great thing. You can get them made at Vistaprint or any of those printing places, and you can list your topics on there. You can list your bio. You can list different things about that on there. So event planners can know. You can send these in the mail to people or have them at your product table. So if somebody likes what they say, you can give them this. Works as great as a bookmark as well. So it's just does a lot of good things, and they're not that expensive. So go to Vistaprint or one of those printing places, and they have templates already there that you can use. So that's one thing. Also, if you are an author or doing a lot of writing, put the word speaker in your bio. Tell that you're willing to speak, or you are available to speak. That it goes a long way. I ended up getting speaking engagements from a bio that I had in a book, that somebody read what I had written. The stories, it was a week's worth of devotionals, and I had the word speak, a good speaker for our women's retreat. And because I also have my website listed, which is a good thing to know, always have a place where they can find out more information about you. She contacted me, and I was the women's retreat speaker that year for that organization, just because she knew I was a speaker, because she read it in my bio. So those are some ways, simple ways you can let people know that it's something on your website. Get your topics on your website, your endorsements on your website, or if you don't have a website,
Yes.
On your blog or whatever. Just let people know. There are lots of ways to do that, and eventually you can't force it to happen, but eventually if God wants you to do it, doors will open, and things will just happen. So always be professional in what you do, represent the Lord in the best possible light, shine the light on him, and I think things will go real well for you, and you'll have a great time.
And the enemy will tell you you're not qualified.
Oh yeah.
Friends who don't aspire to more may suggest that you just need to just wait on that. Just wait on that. Follow Christ if he tells you to go into a burning building. Follow him if he tells you to go into a golden palace. You will be the better for it. He will protect you and your message. He will make a way for you. That we are almost always the wild card, aren't we, Twila?
Yeah.
It's not him, and it's not other people. Us and our obedience is usually the wild card.
What it is, when we are obedient, even though, many times I'm shaking my boots and I can't do this, it's like it shows God's power is what it does. It's like he takes someone like me, and I say my role model is Balaam's donkey. If he can use a donkey to get his messages across, he can certainly use me. So what God wants most is for us to obey and trust him for the results. So if he calls us to do something, we do it, we trust him, and we might be shaking in our boots, but he's there with us. And if we open our mouth, he'll come through.
Yes,
and,
yes.
Yeah.
Let me check Facebook one more time before we close out. Robin says, good stuff here. Thank you, Robin.
Robin's a speaker.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. And a very good one. I thought we had one other, but let me see. Let me check one other place. Oh, I see. Yes.
We had one
Janet.
other,
Yes. Janice Hall Heck. She's given us a thumbs up. Thanks so much for being here today, Janice. Now, Twila, you're the writer's champion. Before we close out, even though you're the writer's champion, do you help people with this, formulating this process to begin their speaking career? Or you have resources that can do that?
I could certainly help people with their next steps in that, and guide them with questions if they're just getting started. I've had a lot of experience. I've been to a lot of conferences. There's some great conferences out there that help speakers. So yes, I can definitely help people with questions related to speaking and guide them in there and coach them in their next steps.
Okay. And viewers, I'm going to put all of the links to all of Twila's contact links above the video, like I always do at the end of every episode. So those resources, it'll say resources mentioned in this episode, and those will be up nearly immediately after we get off. Thank you so much for joining me, Twila.
Thanks for having me. It's always fun.
I'm thinking we might do this more often. What do you think?
Hey, I am up for it. Sounds like the only thing is I have to put makeup on it. No, I'm willing to sacrifice and suffer to do that.
You have so much.
We have things to tell and talk about, don't we?
Yes, yes, and we make a good team. So let's do this. We'll figure out our schedule, and we'll let everybody know when we know. But I'm glad to know that you're going to be back on a regular, semi-regular basis, depending upon your schedule. You've got a lot of crazy things going on in your life right now. Viewers, we so appreciate you being here with us, whether you're watching live or the replay. Do you have questions or comments that you'd like to ask? Feel free to put those in the comment section underneath, whether it's right now or it's 2 days from now and you're seeing the replay. Twila and I will respond. Yes. This has been Marketers on a Mission, episode 114. Can you believe that? Your first 5 steps to becoming a public speaker. Tomorrow, my guest will be award-winning, best-selling author L.B. Johnson. She's a highly accomplished woman, and you will enjoy getting to know her. So mark your calendar, please. This show was designed with you in mind. We're here every weekday, 12 Pacific, 3 Eastern, to help you develop or refine your online marketing skills so your message can spread around the globe for Christ. Until tomorrow, I'm Patricia Durgan, the Christian Message Coach, along with Twila Belk, the Gotta Tell Somebody girl, and the Writer's Champion. Thank you again, Twila.
Thanks for having me. We'll see you the next time.